Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Mobile Fire Challenger Series. This is sponsored by iBuyPower Fatality Gaming Gear, Razor Academy, and right here on twitch.tv/MCS Esports. If you like the games and you like the casting, make sure to drop us a tip at mcsesports.com/tips. But we're into our third game of the day. It's New World Eclipse taking on Complexity Gaming in a battle of the 3-1 teams, looking to kind of distinguish themselves against one another.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go with that. We got some bans coming out right away. We've got Jace, Kennen, and Lee Sin being taken off of the board. You know, Kennen has become a lot popular in the recent meta simply because of the AoE he can provide, sort of that lockup in team fights. This has almost become a necessity when going into 5v5s.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we do have Mega Zero with us. He's in that top lane. It was kind of going to be interesting because the sub for Complexity, his name is Billy Boss. He was the former top laner for Exertus Esports and actually has some a little bit of history with NWE, but not here. We're going to have Mega Zero on vacation playing remotely, but he's down. And interesting to see going up against the NWE lineup, who have really kind of been the surprises of this tournament. 3-1, crushing through some of the strongest names in MCS. We'll be playing with a couple of subs themselves in N Promisiri and Maruum in place there of their jungler and AD carry.
It's actually been surprising watching a lot of these teams simply because there's so many underdog teams that have kind of come out in MCS, and then you have the fan favorites, and there's so many of these underdog teams that are actually like tied for second place right now. It's really interesting to see just how these matches are going because really those upsets are completely possible.
Absolutely. NWE have had a pretty strong series over the course of this tournament, and I don't know, going up against Complexity, these guys are kind of the legend killers. So interesting to see them going up against one of the strongest teams, like you mentioned. Both of these teams tied for second place, right under TBD, that we did just see win their fifth game in a row here in MCS. Now, interesting stat on Thresh, who is the first pick for New World Eclipse. He has been picked or banned in every single game here in MCS. So continuing the trend here, NWE taking him away.
Final bans coming out being Jarvan, Twisted Fate, and Elise. Now, we actually had the pleasure of watching some nice Twisted Fate play in the last game. Absolutely devastating with those global ults. So, despite obviously the team matchups being different, it makes absolute sense to go ahead and take that right off the board. And of course, we've got Nasus and Renekton coming out on the part of the purple team, which is always interesting because they meld so well into AoE comp set. Damage that comes out from their ultimate can be absolutely devastating and severely underestimated.
Yeah, so we do have kind of the Bash Brother combo, brothers in arms, Ladamortis and Mega Zero reuniting tonight, going up against a Nunu who was picked or banned in 25 out of the past 28 games in MCS. So very strongly contested champion and not getting away this time around. It's going to be N Promisiri grabbing that one for the jungle, and the lineups just continue to get stronger and stronger here for NWE. It's going to be Shasters picking up possibly his mid lane pick and leaving the top and AD carry for the last part, but it's actually changing things around. May not go for that Nunu this time.
Yeah, it looks like we've only got a couple seconds left, and of course they're trolling the casters as usual, going to go ahead and swap between those picks. Now, if they do decide to lock in that Nunu is going to make a lot of sense simply because he has such strong objective control between Baron and Dragon, and we've seen just how important those are in these games. But it looks like they've actually decided to go for Caitlyn and then Gragas for a bit of that disengage, which makes sense when you're looking at a Renekton and Nasus in a team that may be building towards that AoE comp.
Now, this makes a lot of sense in a couple of other ways, too. Because Ladamortis has picked Nasus, NWE doesn't have to worry about Complexity picking Nunu because they've already got their jungler, and you really don't want to play him as support nowadays. The other thing is, the reason that they picked away Caitlyn is not because it's for their own team composition, but it's to take it away from Chuper. Complexity, in their last 10 competitive games, have either gone blue build Ezreal mid, and that's exactly what Probably is going to pick up there. They've gone Ezreal mid as an AD carry, and combining that with Chuper's 2v1 split pushing power as that Caitlyn. So very good by NWE, recognized the Complexity strat, countering it out there by picking away that Caitlyn, and may still go for the Nunu as one of their last picks.
This is one of those times where you look at the picks and bans and you understand for pro players just how important it is to have this research before they end up going into these events. I know TDTV and a lot of other teams end up doing the same thing. I only mentioned TDTV because obviously I sit in on their games, but they go in, they come in with these statistic sheets. Their thought process is very thorough on picks and bans based on their recent champions, how the meta is right now, who's in favor, who isn't. It's absolutely crazy to see the amount of research some of these teams pour into this. It looks like we may see that Nunu pick coming up after all.
And it does look like with that new pick there, it could be locking in. And there it is, the Aatrox coming out for NWE. Kind of one of those win lane, win lose game kind of champions. JD Wu locking that in. Keep in mind, he is the sub here coming in for NWE. So may have a little bit of a different role in this game. Either way, a very strong top lane presence there for grabbed away by JD Wu. The big deal for NWE is that they're going to have to go up against the 2v1, and Aatrox not the greatest in that situation. So we'll have to see if this lineup from NWE can counter out this double 80 carry lineup that's Complexity's been running so often, because NWE knew it was coming. We'll just see if they've prepared adequately.
And that's going to be something interesting to see. Now, Aatrox also, while we're discussing him, very strong 1v1. His team fight presence is a little bit lackluster unless he can get terribly fed in lane. So I'm assuming that we're probably going to see a lot of action coming out of this top lane. Aatrox is going to really be looking to duel out most likely Renekton in those early levels, as we're probably going to go ahead and see a jungle Nasus. I wouldn't see any reason for them to go ahead and stick Renekton in the jungle as opposed to Nasus, obviously.
All right, so we are going to see the last pick there. No surprises. MIA's Fiddlesticks. That's basically all he's been playing recently, at least in competitive games. It's just Fiddlesticks after Fiddlesticks. Also does throw in some Nami and Thresh along the way. But I got to say, combining this with a Varus now, the same basic idea. It's either Piltover Peacemaker or going to be that charged up piercing arrow to just clear out those waves and get some very strong pushing presence for Complexity in those 2v1 situations in the early game. So I got to say, this is... I gotta say, this is so ridiculous to see Complexity continuing to run this composition over and over again and just winning game after game after game. I don't know. It's going to be up to Quas in the top lane, really, with that 2v1. That's where Complexity gets their first big boost of power, taking down that early turret to really snowball the game. And going into this game, it's going to be up to NWE to not only stop that from happening, but maybe even take some objectives of their own. We'll see if they can do it.
Well, with that Nunu, it's going to be a bit harder for Complexity to go ahead and control that if they do go for the lane swap. The problem is that the more often you go ahead and go with a strategy like that, the more predictable it is. So if they go ahead and take that lane swap option, I wouldn't be surprised to see New World Eclipse just essentially swap that around on them, so there's no real issue. Aatrox, he's not going to have an easy time 2v1ing, like you said, so he doesn't want to be in that situation at all. He's most likely going to go ahead and go into the other lane. All in all, these matchups very interesting. I love seeing the support Fiddlesticks just because I haven't had the chance to watch Complexity run this particular composition, and that fear can be absolutely devastating when singling anybody out. So I'm really interested to see mostly how this early game is going to go between these two bot lanes.
All right, we saw a very interesting bottom lane, the Doran's Shield Vayne, come out from Robert X. Lee on TBD in the last series. We'll see if there's any innovation here from either one of these teams. We do have that Nunu in the jungle that we were talking about, as well as a Thresh for NWE, so very, very strong power picks from them very early on. And combining that with the Caitlyn taken away from Complexity, the long range from that lane may actually be enough to kind of counter out some of this early pushing that Complexity loves to get taken down. So I got to say, looking forward to seeing if not only that early pressure for the 2v1 for Complexity is going to work out, but also, we talked about it before, double AD probably there in that middle lane. Going to be, dishing out some blue Ezreal builds. We'll see if the tier nerfs have, stopped that from being effective, or if he's just going to be that much more effective. Going up against the Gragas, who is melee, very easy to harass.
It's not going to be hard for all, especially with the low cooldowns on that Mystic shot plus that blue build. He's going to have a lot of opportunities to go ahead and get that poke out on Gragas. I don't imagine he's going to have the hardest time in the lane, just because on top of all of that, he has the ability to essentially just blink away from any barrels that may be coming in for that, huge chunk of damage. He doesn't have to worry about any of that as long as he's positioning himself correctly in the lane. So mid lane, I really got to give it in favor of Complexity at this point. I don't really think they're going to have any problems.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and hop to a quick commercial break. Once again, do want to shout out our sponsors, iBuyPower, Fatality Gaming Gear, Razor Academy, and watching this on Twitch TV. And if you guys want to follow us, you can hit me up on Twitter at RapidCasting, co-caster at Lunette the Herald, and previous co-caster at Azaraki Dragon on Twitter. Make sure to let us know. We'll be glad to talk about the games with you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with New World Eclipse taking on Complexity. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Mobile Fire Challenger Series. I am Rapid. With me is Lunette the Herald. Do want to welcome you back to tonight's games. If you're just now joining us, this is going to be a team down in the bottom left-hand corner of Summoner's Rift. In the blue is New World Gaming Eclipse. Going up against their opponents in the red, and what more of a befitting color? It's Complexity, Mega Zero in hand, and that top lane on Renekton. Very strong picks across the board.
I'm just happy people are getting my name right instead of calling me Herald now, so that's always a bonus. But yeah, two very strong teams coming out, both very even in terms of skill, so this could really be anybody's game at this point. No one composition really has power over the other. You know, Varus gets in with a good engage, followed up by Nasus and Renekton when he comes out with his ultimate. There are a lot of possibilities there for just a clean sweep ace, but Grog is getting in there with that disposition and his ultimate to go ahead and essentially trump that to go ahead and spread everybody out. Really could cause a lot of problems for Complexity if they're playing specifically for the team fights.
Now, Complexity with a very simple, non-complex invade. They basically do this every single game. They drop the ward to make sure that they haven't been spotted. 2 wards in the lower jungle. Now they just take the 4-man top lane. A, they're looking for the 2v1, and B, they're going to look for a very strong presence around the blue buff for NWE. But I'm pretty sure they know what's up. Keep in mind, Quas on this Aatrox recently over the weekend in the GamerCon tournament picked up a 1v4 quadra kill. So want to make sure that not only you note that, but also keep in mind that yes, has a lot of that power and could be switching off to that bottom lane if he knows what's up. But so we'll have to see what NWE does, how they handle this level 1.
It looks like Complexity is actually going in for this blue buff right now, doing their best to establish a little bit of dominance, but they may be caught out here. You notice that everybody over New World Eclipse is kind of dancing around. Nunu going to go ahead and get caught out. The immediate flash, the silence coming out from Fiddlesticks, obviously wanting to stop that, just not quite quick enough there. And now we're going to have this standoff over the blue buff.
Quas down below half HP, very strong lineup here. Latimortis not going to be able to take that away. Ice Ball goes out. The Ignite is down on Latimortis. Last tick will not pick up the kill, or will it? Yes, it will. Shao going to take that down. The slow comes out from Quas. Is going to get the heals up, and that is end from Asiri. On that, Nunu picking up another kill for himself. The flash, the hook, the counter flash. Probably getting out.
Yeah, that death sentence not going to go ahead and land there, and it looks like they're going to go ahead and take Complexity's red buff at this point. An excellent play on the part of New World Eclipse, and this is where you can see that preparation really comes into play at this point. They knew exactly what was going on, they knew where they were going to ward, and they knew essentially what Complexity wanted to do for their early game strat, and you could see how well it worked out for them. Fiddlesticks now sitting in that top lane with a blue buff sitting on him. Not exactly ideal at this point, but hey, at least it did go to New World Eclipse.
Yeah, they didn't. It's not just that they knew it; it's that they knew it, and they were able to take
that was
away.
Terrible, Rapid.
Not
was
just
terrible.
the blue buff, but also using red buff. So very strong start for NWE. They're gonna go ahead, send that jungler to his own red buff. Will pass through a ward, or will he? Quas getting in there for the 1v2. Exhausted dodges out there. Super still level 1. Quas level 3. Does still have his passive. Keep in mind, he's gonna get the heal off from the auto attack. No. Looks like he could revive.
Yeah, he is going to go ahead and revive here, but it actually looks like Chuper's coming back in, and we've got Fiddlesticks coming in, trying to go for, there we go, there's the Flash Fear coming out, and now we've got the Silence going down, and before he can make it away, that is going to be a kill for Complexity.
Meanwhile, in the mid lane, a lot of pressure. JD Wu and Murum there in the mid lane, pushing things out. A lot of Mortis for the wave clear on Spirit Fire, going to keep things relatively decently. This is what we were talking about. The 2v1s from Complexity are really what they want to go for. Speaking of going for things, Quas with the Doran's Shield, Doran's Blade, still going to be going for a lot of aggression. You basically just watched him 2v1 there with that level advantage. Not quite as successful. The Flash Spear from MIA, actually pretty successful. But it's Shousters versus Mega Zero. Gragas versus Renekton. Not quite sure I've seen that matchup a whole lot. Death Sentence onto Probably gets the play off, flashes away with the Ignite on him.
Yeah, it looks like he will manage to get out of this. Probably not going to have a problem getting out of there. Meanwhile, JD Wu taking those tower shots. He took two shots there. Really just burned through his health at this point. You got lane swaps going on all over the place. Everybody just aiming to get that early tower and establish that map control so that they can go ahead and get in on some objectives.
A lot of damage down there. Mega Zero onto Shousters, but the sustain as well as Drunken Rage, giving himself that 10% damage reduction. Deceptively tanky against one of Mega Zero's strongest champions. And with that Doran's Shield, you might have actually thought that Mega Zero was going to go into the 2v1, but putting that in the mid lane for NWE actually had a nice way to kind of counter out that 2v1 by Complexity up top.
Exactly. I was really surprised to see that strategy come out from them, but again, it has to do with all this preparation. Now, meanwhile, down in the bot lane, it looks like we got Nunu coming in for the gank. Mega Zero getting down very low. The flash is going to be forced out, but that snowball followed by that Gragas barrel is going to be more than enough to take him out.
Yeah, exactly. I think the big deal is Chuper and MIA continue to push down this top lane. You notice Aatrox having a little bit of a rough time now rotating down to that bottom lane. He has a pretty decent laning phase already, 32 CS to that 35 for Renekton. Mega Zero picks up a pickaxe on top of his Doran's Shield, going for that over that Doran's Blade. So we'll have to see how this works out now that we will see the 2v1 lanes rotating, or the at least the solo lane rotating down bottom. It's going to be Shousters going up against MIA and Chuper.
Renekton's not going to have the hardest time in a 2v1 situation, so he's going to be fine farming, even if we end up seeing yet another lane swap going down here. Now, what I'm more interested in is Aatrox deciding to go down bottom. Obviously, he had the issue where he didn't have access to his passive anymore. He's not going to be able to 2v1 like that. He had no security net at that point. And even when he did up in top lane earlier on, it still kind of ended up biting him in the rear, and he ended up dying anyway. So that was certainly a problem, and a great move and a great choice to go ahead and send him bot. Nunu coming up into the top lane. Chuper gonna go ahead and get slowed here. That red buff certainly gonna help, and it looks like JD Wu coming in with the death sentence. It is gonna land, and Chuper's gonna get down real low. There we go. That is gonna be a kill for Gragas. In the bot lane, we've got a little bit of a duel going on, but nothing else is gonna come from that.
And even though Quas might be kind of low himself, keep in mind he does have that bloodthirst. He'll heal himself back up there off of every third auto attack. A little bit like a Xin Zhao in that regard. Meanwhile, we do have the 2v1 lane actually for NWE. Working out a little bit better than Complexity is going 2v1 against Prolly's 80 carry. And Brahmasiri now coming down from the top lane, as well as Shousters. 4 men strong for NWE as they push down this middle turret.
With only Ezreal here, they're going to have an excellent opportunity to go ahead and take this down as quick as possible, and it looks like they may just do that before Nasus can... Yeah, there we go. That is going to be the tower. Nasus, a lot of Mortis, just not able to get in there and come out with that Spirit Fire, and it looks like he is going to go ahead and just max that first, wanting to get in there with as much wave and jungle clear as he possibly can, while also stacking up that Q.
All right, now Quas is freezing the lane against Mega Zero, and because of the way that his Dark Flight works, he can afford to do that all day long. The only thing is, Lattimortis, level 6, soloing up this dragon right now. Does have some Crystalline Flask charges helping him out, and with MIA coming in, he'll be able to drain tank that a little bit if he wants to. It's going to be the first global objective, or second global objective going to Complexity, going to even things out against that turret gold.
Not a problem there. Of course, you've also got the Nasus ult coming into the mix of things, which really just helped get in there and demolish that dragon before New World Eclipse had the opportunity to come up and contest it. So now we've got, of course, Fiddlesticks throwing out that Crows, that Silence going down, but nothing else really going to come of that. These guys, you know, it's 4-1 right now. There's certainly a distinct gold advantage in favor of New World Eclipse, but if Complexity can go ahead and pull off these objectives a little bit more, secure a few more towers, and keep objective control over that dragon, they may have the opportunity to come back in terms of gold. But down in the bot lane, we've got a clash going on between Mega Zero and Aatrox right now. He's still got his passive up, still got access to that, but it looks like Nunu coming in with the snowball, and now Mega Zero just doing his best to get out of here. Of course, he's got that ultimate going down, but a slice and dice will go ahead and get him out of there safely.
Way too much damage coming out from that pickaxe. That was a little bit questionable early on, but Mega Zero able to trade that out and escape the 2v1. So good job there, and especially by Shousters in that top lane wave clearing against the 2v1, really sort of shutting down that whole strategy from Complexity. So really impressed to see that working out so well for NWE. They really shut them down not only in the turret push, but also in the kills. 4-1 right now, 3-0 on Shousters, really kind of dominating out that lane.
And we'll have to see if that pays off, but in the meantime, down in the bot lane, we've got Nasus deciding to engage on Aatrox here, kind of just having it back and forth, but with those minions and, of course, the auto attack damage coming out from Aatrox, it doesn't look like Nasus is actually going to get in here for the duel. He just wants to go ahead and clean out those minions. Meanwhile, in top lane, JD Wu trying to defend this tower. It's just not going to happen, though. The Ignite going down, the Death Sentence is going to go ahead and miss, and JD Wu with the Lantern going to come in here, and Caitlyn coming up into the mix of things that Piltover Peacemaker, followed by a nice flash to get out of that ace in the hole. Looks like Gragas is there. There's the barrel for the disposition, that explosive cast coming out, and it looks like Fiddlesticks may end up falling too. The critical hit coming out is not going to be enough, and it looks like probably in here, the body slam coming out. Oh man, and there we go. That may be the death of Caitlyn. She's gonna go ahead and flash instead of taking that Lantern, but it looks like everybody should manage to get out of here A-okay. Probably no longer has access to his ultimate. He's coming in here, the Mystic Shot and auto attack going down, that Death Sentence coming up just to briefly interrupt him. JD Wu sacrificing his life, hopefully for his AD carry.
Yep, probably will not be able to pick up the kill there on a Maroon, but a good job by JD Wu. Keep in mind that he is usually the support, or the jungler for NWE, but playing as support here as he is their sub. Meanwhile, in that middle lane, a little bit of action we need to touch on. Propasiri trying to wave clear, but just didn't quite have what he needed. He was trying to use his Absolute Zero to solo to clear out the wave under turret. Lattimortis and Mega Zero just throwing down the ults and picking up the kills there in that middle lane, as well as the second turret for themselves, tying things up at 2-2.
They didn't really seem to have any trouble with that going in there. They had the interrupts down on Nunu the moment he came in to try and essentially defend that tower. So no real problem for them right now. They're going to go ahead and tie up the turret count right now, 2-2 in favor of absolutely no one, and it's 5-3 at 11 minutes into the game in favor of New World Eclipse. They're actually trailing behind in gold now, just slightly, and this is kind of where objective control comes into play. They got that dragon right now, and that's probably the biggest thing that's kind of keeping that tiny gold difference in play.
Probably, but another thing that's contributing to that gold difference is just the performance of these solo lanes. You know, this Mega Zero having a little bit of a rough time. Quas went in, and as soon as MIA rounds the corner, decides to back on out.
But it looks like Gragas is here to help, and there we go. Chuper just going to get melted instantly with the help of that explosive cask. And in the top lane, a bit of a duel going on here. JD Wu trying to come in, get some auto attacks down on the turret with the help of course, Caitlyn in there. But another failed death sentence, unfortunately, going to mean that no kills are going to result there on Ezreal or Nasus.
Failure on the death sentence, but success on this pushing for NWE, especially when you look down there on that bottom lane. It's Quas going up against MIA. The barrel lands. Shalister's getting in there. The ignite goes down. The body slam, will it hit? Looks like it will actually go down there. And the last auto attack, Quas picks up the kill.
Yeah, an exhaust going out from Fiddlesticks to try and save him on this one, so he's not going to have access to that for quite a while, and we're going to see a lot more team fights come up here in the next, I'd say, 5 to 10 minutes. So he needs to be careful. You know, if they end up getting caught out any earlier, he's not going to have that escape mechanism. But in the top lane, the box going down by JD Wu, Mega Zero getting caught in that immense slow, absolutely terrifying, and just unfortunately going to be disengaged from that fight.
Yep, doesn't get much more immense than 99%, and that will be a fairly effective disengage, although it is ultimate down there for JD Wu, and probably just continuing to be as annoying as he possibly can. The big deal, though, down in the bottom lane, ultimate coming down, and Quas going to pop his ultimate. Lattimore is going to take a lot of damage, force the ultimate himself. There's the Dark Flight coming out from Quas.
There's just no stop in action in this game. That is going to be the passive down for Aatrox, and it looks like Varus is also going to go ahead and pick something up, but in the top lane, we've got that ultimate coming out from Nunu. Meanwhile, Mega Zero trying to get in here. He will manage to pick up the kill onto Thresh thanks to that ultimate. Meanwhile, Gragas in the bot lane managing to pick up Vars. And now it's all about chasing down Nasus. Ezreal coming in after him. A ward will go ahead and give him vision, but he's just not going to be able to catch up.
Yeah, I think it's actually Nunu not able to, or able to escape there with that Blood Boil. A little bit more effective than just the Boots 1 and then the Arcane Shifts every once in a while from Probably. He's going to go back to base. You'll actually see him probably go for a Bloodthirster first here instead of the traditional straight-up blue Ezreal build, but we'll have to see how he adjusts that. No, just going straight for Mana Moon.
Yeah, leave it to the players to go ahead and just make the casters stick their feet in their mouth at every single turn. But yeah, it looks like we're gonna have a really traditional blue build coming out here from Ezreal. No real surprise, as we saw in Probably's match history. He's been playing a lot of this lately. He's got this down. He knows how to make this work. So he's just gonna go in there. Obviously, that tier change is not really discouraged him from this.
Well, it doesn't really affect the Mana Moon portion because you still get the extra gold or extra stacks from auto attacking, which is something, you know, Ezreal's tend to do a pretty fair amount. Quas might have thought about jumping over the back, but as is, will go away to Complexity, their second dragon of the game.
Yeah, that is going to go ahead and tie up the gold right now, so they're really going to have the advantage to essentially stay into this game. The longer this game goes on, though, the scariest part right now being that Nasus as he farms up that Q. Right now, you can see he's got 63 stacks on it, rather 63 extra bonus damage. So he's going to be coming out the later this game goes on, the more and more potent he's going to get, and that is just going to give him the ability to essentially come in and two-shot and 80 carry. Anybody without a Guardian Angel is going to be in for a rough time.
You know, I'd say the 5-0 and 4 Gragas on Shousters is also a pretty scary part in this game. Double Wars over the wall. Golem's going to clap to that, and we may actually see a pretty strong invade here. NWE, they have a hook at their disposal as well as a consume. Shousters throwing the barrel in there, sending Mega Zero the signal, and he may want to back on out.
Yeah, that Death Sentence is going to go ahead and just reset the Golem at this point. And there we go. There's the ultimate coming out from Varus right now. You can see Fiddlesticks prepping to go ahead and go in there. It is just not going to happen, as a nice Lantern will go ahead and get Nunu out of there.
All right, but Quas, he's continuing the chase. Darkfly does not land, but the slow goes down on his shoot, but the rest of NWE trying to back him up. There's the barrel over the wall from Shousters.
Yeah, we're not actually going to see his passive up, so no funny plays here. Meanwhile, in the top lane, it looks like that Wither is going to go out, and Caitlyn and that Nasus is going to go ahead and just have at it. At this point, Nunu is going to get taken out by a Probably there, and Gragas following shortly after in the double kill. Meanwhile, it looks like Caitlyn managed to evade the death by Nasus up in top lane, and it looks like Probably's just going to go ahead and pick up a blue buff for himself now.
All right, so good play there at the end of everything. The blue get bluer, and Probably will pick that one up for himself. Mega Zero turns around and picks up that nice kill onto Shousters, getting the shutdown gold. And we'll start to see some pretty significant itemization come out after that. Infinity Edge now completed for Caitlyn. But we have the makings of a Zephyr first coming out from Quas. I'm not sure if that's the new build, but a little bit of interesting itemization for Aatrox.
It's going to be interesting to see as this game progresses on, but no real surprises coming out from Renekton. He's going to go ahead and build up that Tiamat first. That is going to be really devastating coming to those team fights where he's just going to be able to get so much damage down as he focuses on one target. He's got the AoE coming out from his ultimate. It's not going to be anything that's fun to deal with, so it's really for the best of New World Eclipse that he hasn't managed to get too far ahead in the laning phase by picking up too many kills.
All right, well, we do have a kind of a battle of the mid laners, 5-1-4 versus 3-0-1, both having a very strong presence in this game, even though, I mean, Probably spent his time in that mid lane. Shousters was all over the map picking up kills, so it's going to be kind of interesting to watch, especially in this next game, or in this next team fight, because Complexity are going to play this thing totally differently than NWE. NWE, they have Aatrox getting in there for some crazy damage in the middle of everything. You got Gragas exploding things out and then taking things down, but it's all about the poke damage and the mass CC coming out from Complexity. So if they play this next fight like their team fight is designed, then there's not really gonna be all that much that NWE can do about it. But something tells me that NWE have some stuff up their sleeve.
You know, that exploding cask from Gragas is also going to help just a bit disrupt those team fights. So hopefully we see something like that coming out. Really though, if, as you said, Complexity manages to pull off like the perfect chain of ultimates, there's just going to be no way that New World Eclipse is
top lane engine
Quas
trying to sustain that, but goes into his passive.
Yeah, no real chance for him there. He's going to get taken down, but meanwhile in the mid lane, we've got that Chain of Corruption coming out. Nasus coming in with the ultimate and the Fear going down onto Nunu. There's the Lantern to go ahead and get him out of that. That Spirit Fire will go down, and the Death Sentence landing onto Nasus. And the Fox coming out just a second too late, but a nice Piltover Peacemaker will go ahead and pick off Nasus.
It's the Piltover Pacemaker stopping and start taking him down. Mortis going out with that, and that will give the kill over to Caitlyn, picking up a nice red buff at the same time. Looking at NWE now without that Nasus for the Spirit Fire wave clear, as a really strong pushing advantage, but with Mega Zero in the top lane, it will signal the Quas to kind of head on back up there as NWE back on out.
And no real surprises coming out in builds aside from that Zephyr, though. Everything here it's still pretty close. Everything, gold count fairly similar. Everybody's got about the same amount of map control. The only real difference here in terms of map control is the fact that New World Eclipse has a couple more offensive wards. This is going to give them the real ability to go ahead and pick off anybody they want that's wandering through the jungle. Meanwhile, Complexity, they've got their objectives warded, but that's really about it.
All right, the big deal right now, Complexity, you saw how they played that team fight. They were trying to poke things out, but just taking a little bit too much focused aggression. Really great focus there by NWE, and you can see Mirum not only just taking that Caitlyn pick away from Super, actually doing a lot of work with that right now. 180 CS, 80 CS advantage over the 0 and 5 Varus being played by Super, so that is a huge discrepancy in favor of NWE.
Absolutely, and that's really something that's going to play to their advantage right now. You could see how strong Caitlyn is going into those fights, and she's really going to need it. Of course, that IE coming out, and we're going to obviously see the Last Whisper with that pickaxe and longsword going. Not a bad idea at all. It really looks like Complexity. They're going for this heavy armor right now. You can see the Sunfire Cape coming out. We've got an Aegis building on Nasus on top of everything else. So they're building heavily towards armor, and Caitlyn is looking to counter that, so an excellent pickup.
All right, and we are going to see NWE start to pressure around this middle lane. They still consistently have Quas up in the top. He's their split pusher, just shoving things out. CLG styles to have the AD carry do that. That's kind of what Complexity are having, as you do see at blue build Ezreal by Probably. But team fight in the middle lane, Xiao's just getting jumped on, man. Mega Zero is just going man mode. He has that Tiamat and Sunfire Cape. He is their initiator, but without a lot of damage to back him up, that could be an initiate that may be a little bit overzealous. So we'll have to see if NWE can capitalize on that, or if they're going to get taken out by all the poke damage coming out from this double AD composition.
Yeah, everybody's kind of split right now. You've got Ezreal and Renekton down in top and bot for Complexity, and then of course Gragas and this Aatrox. But in the top lane, a bit of a duel going on. Mega Zero just doing his best to defend against this push, which he'll manage to do successfully as he disengages from that duel.
And Mega Zero just has Quas's number right now. Nothing he can do. He needs that Blade of the Ruined King, because as soon as that's complete, the HP stacking on Renekton gonna work against him, giving that much more health and damage over to Quas. So Quas really sort of finding his strength, not in that 1v1, but for the team fights, a little bit ahead of Mega Zero. Coming into this Dragon area, has been aggroed down to around half HP, will reset as NWE disengage.
I love the fact that Ezreal came in there. He went ahead and used his ultimate for the blue towards the dragon to go ahead and check out that objective as well. Caught him out, and then New World Eclipse, they had to back off, and now we see the brewing for a team fight. We've got the Oracles coming out on a Fiddlesticks. He's clearing out that vision, getting in there, and it really denying New World Eclipse their ability to go ahead and pull off a death sentence engage.
We do see Mortis really has been kind of the playmaker. When he goes in and lives, Complexity actually pick up a few kills, but he's actually gotten taken out very first in the last couple of team fights, so Complexity needs to keep their tanks alive. Ooh, Maroon takes the damage, but makes it back to base in time, picks up a last Whisper. No attack speed here, just kind of taking the Genji route and going straight for the damage.
And there we go, that ward is going to be taken out. We got the Ezreal ult coming out just to go ahead and get in there, but it looks like Nunu coming in with the steal. He's going to go ahead and get stunned, but the moment he's out of it, take that Lantern out and manage to get out of there. Excellent play by JD Wu, and now in the mid lane, we've got this duel going on between Aatrox and Mega Zero. Nass is coming in here to go ahead and help. That explosive cast actually going to help him get away. At that point now, Aatrox turning around to try and burst down Nasus. A lot of damage going down onto him. That Absolute Zero coming out, not managing to do much. Fiddlesticks coming in here. He's going to get melted. And there is a Lantern once again. Everybody looking to get in and now take out Varus. He's going to try and flash over that lane, but it's just not going to work. It's not going to go off in time, and he will end up falling to Gragas as well.
Sweet Lord, the follow-up. Holy cow, the NWE all have the same mindset, just single-handedly getting in there, but now it's Mega Zero trying to get in there. Quas goes back in, the follow-up from Shousters. They're getting the snowball back, and Mega Zero 1v5, 2v5 actually, with Probably there. Only going to be able to pick up one kill. Probably will go down, and that is a 2-for-1 exchange in favor of NWE.
Oh, that was an absolute insane and drawn-out team fight. Now, Nass is looking to get in here with a little bit of damage. You've got the jump coming out from Quas, of course, and he's not going to really manage to do anything. That fear going off, and there we go, a nice death sentence landing, but no one's really going to have the damage to come up and really take out a Nasus. He's just so tanky at this point, they don't really have the opportunity to do it. Now everybody's on the run as the Aatrox passive is going to get popped, and he's going to ride the Lantern out of there as that 90 caliber net comes up and manages to save Caitlyn.
And JD Wu has been making Thresh plays this entire game. Not going for like the gold for 5. I'm going to sit back and sustain. Getting the manly Ruby Sightstone and the nice Lantern save. Saving not only Maroon, but also the revive there from Quas. And WE backing out, going to go back, spend their money. You will see that Blade of the Ruined King finally completed for Aatrox. And this is where he's going to hit a huge spike of power. Almost, keep in mind, that Death Cap coming out from Gragas as well.
Yeah, we've got the new items picked up for Thresh. He manages to pick up mobility boots, oracles, and those wards. He's looking for a lot of invasive jungling wards, as well as clearing out whatever Fiddlesticks has managed to put down. He doesn't have access to that oracles anymore, so he either has to pick up another or deal with the fact that JD Wu's going to be coming in there and taking away all of Complexity's vision.
All right, so we do see NWE back up in the top lane, grouping up 4 members strong. The big damage going down onto MIA. Quas going to go for this. Doesn't have Ghost available, but he has incredible move speed from that Zephyr. Chow getting in there, picking up the kill with an explosive barrel. And doesn't matter how much poke damage you have, but we keep getting picked off like this. Complexity just really can't let their team composition start to work.
Yeah, that barrel roll is gonna provide a really nice pick-off. They just don't have the damage to really engage in a 4v5 at this point. Fiddlesticks, despite the fact that he is building support, his damage is always helpful coming out with that ultimate. And Ezreal gonna go ahead and get Death Sentence here. The pullback coming out from JD Wu, and there we go. There's the Arcane Shift followed up by the Ezreal ultimate, but he is gonna fall. Nunu picking up that kill.
I don't think that was falling. I think that was getting crushed into the ground. The 1v4 is probably not the most effective way to teamfight. And once again, Complexity lose a man down before the fight even starts.
Yeah, this is going to provide a huge issue. It did look like New World Eclipse wanted to go for this Baron buff, but decided against it. Aatrox actually catching out Nasus here. Another beautiful Death Sentence landing, followed by the knockback. Will end up landing Gragas the kill. Meanwhile, up towards the top lane, Caitlyn managing to 1v2 Varus, it looked like. Gonna go ahead and take him out. Good job.
There you go. The big deal about Complexity's team composition is the poke and the double AD. But when one of your ADs is down by 80 CS and is 0 and 7, it's not even a double AD composition anymore. It's like 4v5 with just one. And that 1 AD is a blue build Ezreal against the Caitlyn that has Infinity Edge Last Whisper. And that is targeted directly at Mega Zero. He's going to pop his ultimate, go in there, Quas sustaining through everything with that Blade of the Ruined King ultimate coming out.
Yeah, Ezreal going in there with that ultimate. Aatrox managing to take down Renekton, and that inhibitor is going to fall shortly after. Now Varus and Nasus are up, and they're going to do their best to try and continue the chase. Ezreal coming in there, doing his best to get that slow with a Mystic Shot. It's just not going to go off, unfortunately. Not in range for that Iceborne Gauntlet proc.
Yeah, it won't quite hit that. It looked like it hit, but keep in mind there's a little bit of an isometric view perspective, so just a little bit high on that. The big deal right now, Complexity going to try to go for maybe even a Baron, as MIA will try to clear things out. The damage going down, just chunking him out. Shao keeping him off that Baron for now.
He's only got a 54-second cooldown on that explosive cask right now. No reason to go ahead and not use it essentially to dissuade the enemy team from taking that Baron buff. So right now, Caitlyn just getting back to farming, pushing out that lane. Nasa's attempting to do the same at this point, but Caitlyn getting that last whisper. She's going to go ahead and be able to damage him pretty heavily if she wants to.
All right, we will see most likely either Blade of the Ruin King or Infinity Edge. That's probably going to be the pickup from Maroom as he goes back after picking up a Wolf Camp. If you're NWE, you know that you're strong. You know you can just crush through these team fights. But if you're Complexity, you have to get some play the team composition the way it's meant to be played. Sit in the back, have your tank line take with some poke damage in the back, but. Not only is the tank line a little bit far behind, the damage in the back is just not there with the 0-7 Varus.
Oh, and that is rough. He doesn't really have the opportunity to really come back until the next, I'd say, about 10 minutes have passed, where he can go ahead and pick up another major item, which is what he needs at this point. He needs that Phantom Dancer. Varus, he has a really great late-game scaling, but he still needs those items to really back up that scaling at this point. Meanwhile, it looks like New World Eclipse, they're going to go ahead and go for this dragon. You know, Baron is up, but they've got such good objective clear right now. With that Nunu, there's really no issue there. And of course, Nunu saving his smite for the attempted Baron that may come up here soon.
All right, keep in mind, it's not just the smite for Nunu, it's smite and consume, exactly what he used to steal away that last dragon. So even if NWE find themselves at a disadvantage and Complexity are going for that Baron, they still have a very good chance to take it away. NWE, I mean, there's really nothing they can't do right now. 2 turrets up, 10 kills ahead, and sitting on that 5,000 gold advantage. I really want to see them push the issue because, as is, they're just kind of sitting back, farming things up, and kind of letting Complexity do the same, which is kind of giving them away that advantage. But they've been good at picking off just 1 or 2 members of Complexity before the fight even starts. We'll see if they can do that again.
We will have to see, but in the meantime, with that inhibitor down, we're going to see, we're really going to see all the lanes slowly start to push in. So right now, Complexity, they really have to divert their attention into these other lanes. You saw probably have to come out there with the ultimate to go ahead and keep that bot lane from pushing, but it still is at this point, and Aatrox even coming up there to help it. You saw in the top lane, Varus having to respond to keep that from pushing into their towers. So this is kind of the issue with those inhibitors going down. It's not all about the super minions, but what happens in those other lanes, as well as those minions, of course, get that extra health.
All right, bottom lane is Quas versus Mega Zero once again. Quas, this time around, has a little bit of extra itemization, getting the health gain from that Spirit Visage, not quite the MR. And in the top lane, the Wither and Fear down onto Maroom, silenced out as well. Just can't quite get the damage to follow up. That's exactly what we were talking about. Double AD doesn't mean anything when they aren't doing damage.
Exactly. Now, it looks like Mega Zero is actually going to go ahead and go for the stun here. Quas coming in, doing his best to engage. The ultimate has been popped by Renekton, but it looks like that is going to be all for that skirmish. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, we got a little bit of poke going down with those barrel rolls, but nothing else really coming out from this aside from, you know, just a little bit of poke. But Bear is coming in there with those chains of corruption, shut down by the Ezreal ultimate. Nunu coming in there with the absolute zero. It is going to be stopped, and there we go. There's the flash coming out from Chuper, and now Frog is finally going down. That shutdown gold is going to come up, and there we go. Probably going to manage to secure another kill after a nice fear coming out from Fiddlesticks.
And that is how you play double AD. You sit back, you pick people off with your AD carries, and really, probably it's just, you know, he's putting on the carry pants. He even has like the carry suspenders to match. And Super, he got taken out there, but off of that initiation, a perfect follow-up from Probably, picking up 3 kills, 8, 2, and 1. Doesn't matter if it's blue build Ezreal because he is doing all the damage he needs to do.
And now he manages to pick up a last Whisper at this point on top of upgrading into the Muramana. So that is going to be devastating in these team fights, even if they go ahead and build into some of that armor to try and counter them. That armor penetration is just going to be able to shred through that at this point. And we've got another Oracles coming out on the part of Complexity, wanting to deny as much vision as possible, as it's all about the ward games. You need the vision to go ahead and pick anybody off, and that's all both teams want to do. They want to go ahead and get in, have the opportunity to pick somebody off, and then engage in the opportune fight of a 4v5.
Yep, in the game of words, you either see what's going on or you die, and I think that for complexity, they really are kind of losing that out, especially with that Oracles on JD Wu. The big thing to watch out for, though, will be those death sentences. They've been starting off these fights so well for NWE, and if they can keep that up, then it's really just going to be, you know, once again, those picks that they keep on getting. But we just saw there that last fight, the fight under the turret, probably able to snipe people out. That's exactly what this team comp is designed to do for complexity. They're just going to have to make it happen again.
Have I ever told you how much I love your puns, Rapid?
Well, you know, Freak does take lessons from me, but you know, we'll see if he keeps taking those after the ones going down here today. The rest of the teams, though, I mean, we've seen good games here today. This game not disappointing, and after a very strong start from MWE, Complexity have sort of stalled out the game. They're taking their time. They're kind of getting back into things, and when you look at least the way the things started out, Complexity are definitely, you know, they're not losing out as much as they were before. We were talking about the CS differential between the 80 carries. If we look at the mid laners, there's a 30 CS advantage in favor of Prolly, as well as evening up the kill count now. You know, he's down though in assists. Thorn, big buys coming out from Mega Zero.
No kidding. You can also look at the farm coming out from Nas. It's just absolutely dominating Nunu right now, and it is really helping to keep them in this game, getting that extra gold that they're really going to need at this point. You know, but you give it long enough, and that gold count isn't going to matter anymore. You get to about the 40 to 45 minute mark, everybody's going to start completing their full builds, and that is where the problem is going to lie. Now, I love this strategy. Complexity doesn't have vision on Baron. They do now. Fiddlestick just put down the ward, but you could see they were attempting to three-man that and toss two people into the mid lane, but it looks like we're going to see the fight break out here. Nunu getting chunked down very low, that Chain of Corruption coming out, and there we go. That is going to be the pickoff. Probably picking that up. No jungler in there for the Baron now, and Aatrox getting in there. Caitlyn managing to pick up the first kill. Bars immediately going to fall, and there we go with the help of the passive. That is going to be the triple kill for Caitlyn, and now all that's left is Mega Zero, who is having problems as he's going to go in for a 1v4. That is not going to end well for him. He's fairly tanky right now and just going to use that slice and dice to go ahead and get away. Meanwhile, it looks like New World Eclipse, they're just going to go ahead and push for this.
Right down the middle, Xiao and Quas. Perfect plays in the middle of the team fight, and a great way to start things off for Complexity. They landed the poke damage that they needed, actually wound up taking out End Promise Theory before the fight even started. And even still, they ran straight into the crazy AoE. Xiao and Quas just carrying this game out. 5-1 and 10 from that Aatrox. Really impressing me on a pick you don't usually see.
Yeah, and to top all of that off, that team fight, I mean, it went wrong in a lot of places. The first problem, obviously, being that Chain of Corruption coming out from Vars. It was a great idea in theory. Unfortunately, it just wasn't able to connect to anybody else. It managed to pick off Nunu, but that was all it did. And the focus on Aatrox while his passive was up, he was able to just get right back up and start dealing that damage. Meanwhile, Caitlyn was just in the back line, demolishing everybody. Massive amounts of damage, just took out that 80 carry like there was no tomorrow. Trooper went down really quick there, and that was a secondary problem that ended up happening for Complexity. So just unfortunately too much going wrong for them, but it looks like they're actually going to try and ninja this Baron buff right now. They got those double ultimates if they so desire from Nasus and Renekton.
The flash, the fear, the cleanse out from Nuru to start things out. Quas getting in.
Yeah, we've got the Chain of Corruption going out. It is going to manage to land, but not do terribly much. Vars coming out with a barrier right now. Mega Zero doing his best to play Peel. Nunu going to have to get out there. He's very low at this point. Vars will end up falling, and the nice snipe from Ezreal coming out. Meanwhile, the flash is coming out from JD Wu, and it looks like Complexity is actually going to come out on top of this engagement right now, as the rest of New World Eclipse is pretty much forced to flee. You see Renekton coming in here. He's just so tanky at this point. He can really bully anybody out, so not a problem for them. Caitlyn doing her best to fire off an ultimate, but I'm not sure that New World Eclipse can defend this right now.
Yeah, we're just going to see some damage over the wall. Shouster's getting hit there by the blue build, probably dealing way too much damage to be dealt with at the moment. So it's just going to be a push down top lane. Quas and Shouster's taking on this top turret. If they want to go for Baron, Complexity are going to lose another turret. So as is, they back on off. A great job by Quas and Xiao, losing the team fight for NWE, but still preventing the Baron.
This is an excellent call on the part of New World Eclipse. They weren't really able to pick up that Baron buff, and they couldn't really stop Complexity if they wanted to go for it. So they went ahead and did the next best thing. Instead of losing everybody in the potential Baron, re-Baron fight, rather, would have been Baron Mark II. But they went ahead and took that objective. You saw mid lane was pushing heavily into those Nexus towers. There was just too many problems that Complexity could not ignore. They didn't have a choice but to back. So an excellent call on the part of New World Eclipse.
When you do look at Complexity, they've been going for this Baron over and over again, just forcing fights and actually winning them just thanks to the poke damage coming out from Prawley. He's going to Arcane Shift. Very low mana, though, only sitting about 800.
JD Wu catching out Fiddlesticks here. He's going to take a huge chunk of damage. You see the Ezreal ultimate coming out, as well as the explosive cask, and of course that ace in the hole coming out from Caitlyn. A lot of damage coming down from Baron as well as New World Eclipse, and just going to really force everybody off this objective. Ezreal forced to back at this point.
Yeah, that will be Ezreal out of the picture, and keep in mind, Thresh pretty low as well, but with that Oracle's clearing out the ward coverage for NWE, just giving them the vision that they need. Chuper, we talked about how far behind he was earlier on, but he's actually gotten some decent CS. He's still pretty far down, but with that Static Shiv, very cheap alternative to the Phantom Dancer, is 0 and 10. Basically, if you're looking for somebody to die at the beginning of your team fight, call up Chuper. He's your man. He's not really having all that good a performance, but Prawley is just picking up the slack where he's needed, and 10, 3, and 1. Definitely a little bit too much for NWE to do it. They have to take him out at the beginning of the team fight, which you actually saw them do last time, so definitely doing what they need to do.
I have to say, I really love the tanky damage build coming out from Quas right now onto Aatrox. He's got that Randuin's Omen, and this is an excellent pickup versus a double 80 carry team. He's not only going to have the ability to shut down the attack speed coming out from Forest, but he's going to be able to slow Ezreal's auto attacks as well, despite the fact that, of course, a lot of damage is going to be coming out from that Mystic shot, as well as that Iceborne Gauntlet he's got going for him. But it's a great item in general. It's going to do nothing but benefit them, and of course he's got that Zephyr coupled with the Blade of the Rune King, so he's got that physical % true damage coming out. It's going to be a lot to deal with at this point, despite the fact that he's so tanky. His damage is going to be really deceptive.
Yeah, we do have probably the biggest thing to watch out for. It's Maroon pushing in this middle lane, because I mean, you have the Thorn Veil and even working on the makings of the Randuins with that cloth armor for Mega Zero, but he just can't get tanky enough fast enough. Maroon just way far ahead on the damage, and with the Negatron Cloak going to be mitigating the magic damage dealt by that Thorn Veil. Well, it's Quas versus MIA, and probably trying to get away. Exhaust goes down. No damage done to, well, half damage done to Quas. He's going to be able to heal that up, though.
Yeah, we may see the huge engagement going down here. Varus managing to get a nice Q off onto Nunu, followed up by a Mystic shot coming out from Prawley. Looks like everybody's just doing this little dance right now, looking to catch somebody out. Aatrox, though, incredibly low. You can see just how much, though, that lifesteal from his kit is really coming into play. He's already quite a bit back up in terms of health, even after taking that Mystic shot from Ezreal right now. So everybody's just grouping up to do this little Baron dance.
Yeah, lifesteal only works when you can auto attack, and without a whole lot to hit, he's going to stay down there relatively. Holy cow, the flash out from MIA. Very good reflexes, keeping him alive for now, but very aggressive catch potential from NWE. And that's what they need to do. They can't just sit in there, keep getting poked out. They're going to go for this Baron and see if they can take it down.
I don't know if this is really going to happen. It looks like Complexity's coming in here. They got a little bit of vision now. They really need to focus on burning this down as quick as possible. The Chain of Corruption coming out. Caitlyn will actually manage to take that down. A lot of Mortis coming in here. He's going to get incredibly low and be the first to pick off. And there we go. Gragas is going to go down as well. Ezreal getting into the thick of things and getting so low. He will be taken out. Mega Zero doing his best to focus Caitlyn, but it's not going to happen. Meanwhile, it looks like Aatrox just cleaning up, Thresh managing to pick up a kill as well, but Chuper is going to go ahead and go down. That Aatrox passive still up and tanking so much damage for that fight. And what was a 4-for-5 exchange, a 4-for-3 exchange and Baron in favor of New World Eclipse.
How to kill Aatrox? The question everyone on Complexity is asking themselves right now. I don't even know. He was literally at 10% HP for the last, 10 seconds of that team fight. Just couldn't get taken out by anyone. Perfect disengaging in the Randuins to stop the auto attack damage. Just a beautiful play here by Quas. Gotta say, he's 6-1-15, deserves every bit of that. First inhibitor of the game, going to NWE.